All right, so more things have come out since Trump said that he was going to release files, and now so everybody's been talking about it. Everybody's been discussing it on different news programs, and now the UAP task force and people who have been very advocates of it and speaking up more about it, they feel like they have more support, understandably so. And this was kind of one of the things that we talked about forever, that when the higher-ups started to talk about it more, the mainstream would start taking it a little more serious and more coverage would happen. Now, it's still a lot of skepticism as far as intention, as far as why it's being released. There's also skepticism as far as what is actually going to be released. There are articles already saying that some of the files and things have already been dumped because the announcement was made that they were going to make everything public. So everybody's trying to, get their housekeeping in order, if you will, to say, hey, if they're going to start releasing stuff, we got to make sure this stuff's quiet. We got to hide this over here, and that is one of the concerns, right? Now that they know that there's going to be this search for it, that the people who've been keeping it quiet are going to find a way to keep it quiet still, even with more people knocking on the door. I have quoted this quote more than anything because I think it's the most relevant quote, and that's George Knapp of "They're better at their jobs than we are." They've been hiding it for so long and keeping it quiet for so long that who's to say they don't know how to already do this or aren't prepared for this. But nonetheless, I want to bring up this tweet and this video here by Ross Coulthart concerning what's going down with the potential disclosure or revealing of files from President Trump. All right, check this out. Ross Coulthart tweets out today, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, pledged that files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, UAPs, and UFOs will be declassified. Things are getting very interesting very fast. If there are indeed files on extraterrestrial life that require declassification, how does that sit with the claims made by the Department of War to Congress that there is no evidence of extraterrestrial life engaging with this planet? Did the DOD lie? So there were tons of follow-up interviews, obviously. So there's Ross Coulthart's tweet, and he's talking about the DOD potentially lying. And look, there's going to be tons of people, whether or not it's the DOD lying at this particular circumstance, we'll find out, we won't find out. But there's going to be, if these things are actually released and things do actually happen, we're going to find out that there were tons of people that were lying. And that was the whole point of this, is that a lot of people said that, people have been covering shit up. So we're going to find out people were lying. And there was other things and reason keeping things quiet for a reason that you would assume a lot of people knew about things and couldn't say certain things. And even like that drone conversation. And hell, man, I mean, when the drones were flying around and then they said that the FAA was responsible for it, and the FAA is like, no, we're not. No one followed up on it. They were lying, clearly. So yeah, people are going to be lying. Of course people are going to be lying. People have been lied to within this government, people who are asking questions, and we'll hear from some of those people in just a bit about some of the things that they've been told that they were asked and lied to about. Of course, tons of stuff there's been lies. So again, would this particular thing be a lie? That maybe not, because maybe they don't know. Maybe they haven't been shared information about extraterrestrial life in general. Maybe the DOD hasn't been shared some of this stuff, or maybe the particular person who made the statement wasn't shared with. The stupidest thing said all week was, again, and I always preface this in the fact that I respect Neil deGrasse Tyson's input on the majority of the scientific takes that he puts out there. His stuff on how space-time works, quantum physics, like all these things, like listening to him talk about it, it's fascinating. And he's so open-minded with certain things, with the idea, even in the simulation theory and all that other stuff, and how he talks about it, the possibilities, what certain people say. With this topic, he comes off like a damn moron. And not when it comes to, oh, well, you have to believe. It just, like I just said, with certain topics, he's like, well, if it was going to work, it was going to work this way. When the president says he's going to release these files, he's on the show again going, well, instead of releasing the files, just show me the alien bodies. If the alien's out there, show me the bodies. It's like, what are you doing? if you're a scientist, which we know you are, one of the most brilliant ones out there, you say, okay, let's see what's in these files. I'm skeptic. I don't necessarily know. I've made my stance clear that I don't think that it's possible they're traveling here, but who's to know what's actually out there? Let's see these files, and then we can talk about it afterwards and see what the science shows us, because that's what he always says. He says, I follow the science. Well, let's see the files and see where the science takes you there. What's this weird stance that he's got? That he's so, I mean, he plays like the same as like Mick West. And Mick West's job is to deny everything. That's his shtick. That's his thing. But this guy's a scientist. Well, let's hear what it is. So baffling on that particular thing. But when it comes to some of the other people that have been involved with this topic, it has been a very bipartisan thing. And we're going to hear from two people involved in it, both on opposite side of the aisles. We'll go with both Luna and Moskowitz. We'll start with Luna. And she's been on talking a lot about this. Now she feels rightfully so. She's got the support of the president now. She's now running at 150 miles an hour to try to find out how to release some of these things. She's really made her name in this topic for a lot of things, right? So let's listen to these comments that she made about what they're going to be trying to do with UAP transparency. Check it out.
We are going to be working very closely with the White House. I have meetings set up next week with not just the FBI, but the Department of War to push for a very specific list of documents. I believe it's over 20 documents specifically that we know that they are housing, that they have previously denied us access to as members of Congress, which should alarm every American, but will be similar to some of the footage that you've seen us release from my task force, as well as the footage that you have up on your screen right now. I can slightly allude to it right now, but we still are waiting on the official declass. But once we receive it, I will be actually sharing with the American people some stuff that was briefed to us directly by the FBI and be able to share more information on that. And so based on the tech, if you look at how these things are moving, some people will say, well, this could potentially be drones or advanced technologies from other adversarial governments, which is exactly why we should be able to access this information and to debunk that if possible. But there are certain things that we can't explain. And I was not the only member of Congress that saw that. Many members on my task force actually came into the briefing, as well as other individuals that are currently looking into this. And so we will be revealing that information. We will be ensuring that the declassification order by the president is followed through on. And again, I'm not telling people what to believe, but yeah, it's definitely hard to explain.
Okay, so this is probably a big relief to her. That's the kind of support that they're getting now. And then, as she said, she has these are some of the bigger meetings we've heard her discuss about what she's going to be doing. And now, if they are actually legit about this, she's got enough of the information to say, hey, this is where we were pointed. This is the direction we were pointed in. We want to access these files. You said no before, and now we're being told that we can have these files. Let us have them and let us release them. Will that happen? Because if you go back, whether it's Age of Disclosure or any of these, Stephen Greer, any of these other, Marco Rubio says it in Age of Disclosure, I think, trailer. They've talked about this many times in other documentaries about how the president of the United States is essentially the way that these gatekeepers have looked at the presidency is this person is a hired gun. They'll be there for a little bit, then they'll be gone. The next president is, and we're running stuff kind of behind the scenes. It's our game. It's our show. We don't really have to answer to anybody. It's the way that this has been alleged, right? So if that is indeed the case, then why are these people going to adhere to this mandate? Why are they going to listen to it? As I said in the beginning of this video, why wouldn't they just put things aside and say, we don't have any of this stuff here? We don't have any of this stuff. But what it does make me, well, hopeful in one aspect. In the realistic or the logical, rather, side of it, you would say, all right, well, this is pretty much a shoo-in now that they should pass the UAPDA at this point. I mean, that's essentially what Trump's calling for. You pass this bill now, and that's it. Game over. We're going to be able to get everything that they need to, and whether it's Skywalker Ranch or I don't remember the name of it. Skinwalker Ranch. I can't remember the freaking name of the thing. But either way, Skinwalker Ranch. Skywalker Ranch should be, what the hell are you doing here? We want to watch old footage of Han and Leia. Skinwalker Ranch, and you go there and they'd have to give up all their stuff. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these people who have materials and have other things, they want to they want to close it down. They don't want to have the UAPDA thing passed because they're going to have to give up their shit. I say tough shit at this point. I get it. You don't want the government to get a hold of it. But if we're able to get this kind of document out, we're able to get this mandate out, I would hope that that's exactly what's going to happen. But I don't know if it will. I've become very skeptical, not in the topic itself, as I've shown many times over. I'm still covering this for the last 3 years. I'm very much an optimist in what this is, and more and more people getting behind it, and more people's their eyes being open. That much I'm very optimistic about. I've just become more of a skeptic when it comes to trusting that people are going to band together to actually do the right thing, especially with, in general, but especially in this topic. And in this topic, it seems like every time there seems to be some kind of movement, something gets shut down. I understand why, with everything else going on the world and all the other scandals and everything, that this is not a priority to most people, because to a lot of people it seems very fantastical and still, and that karma is there. I just find it baffling. I've seen tweets, and it says, and I'll preface this by saying, I 100% am with everyone that all of the Epstein files should be released, and they should be handling that. If you can release all the UFO files and any other files, you should be releasing those. And the protection of a lot of these people is beyond weird, and it needs to be released, and it all needs to come out. I'm prefacing that, but the tweets that I saw was more so like, I don't care about little aliens and everything else too. I just want to find out who was involved in this. And again, prefacing it that I agree with the second part of that. We have to find out all of this information, and the way that the victims have been handled have been treated, has been atrocious, to say the least. That all needs to be handled, but it doesn't take away from the fact of, if there is a way to also release information that we are not alone in this world, and in those files could have answers to things that would change the face of this planet, of this existence in general. How people don't want that, I don't see that they really. I think the people who are really excited, people who are watching this video, people who are following this topic, are not the people I'm talking about. It's the people who have not taken this seriously at all and still can't even wrap their brains around it, that they don't think that it's something that should be handled because they think it's merely just a distraction. I think that when you, I use my friend who I brought up on the show before, and he knew that I was doing this topic. And at one point he asked me, you don't really believe in that stuff? I was like, of course I do. I've been paying attention to all the facts and the things that I've been looking at. And he's like, oh, but like aliens? And I was like, when you look into what this is, you start to ask a lot more questions, but it's not covered in the mass media. And then I told you guys, like, about a month ago, I had dinner with my friend, and he was telling me that he was talking to my other friend who watched Age of Disclosure, and he couldn't believe it. And he started asking me a lot of questions about the topic, and he was kind of blown away with a lot of the stuff I was telling him, with the military stuff and the pilots that I've seen in the hearings and all that. And he's like, why hasn't this been covered more in the media? And I was like, that's the question I ask every single day, so much so that the audience is sick to death of me saying it. But when the Obama thing came out, I sent it to him. He goes, how come nobody's covering this? I go, this one, I think that they will. And they started to. And then when the follow-up then came to Trump, and then Trump said he's going to do the files, now it's everywhere, right? I think more and more people will start to get on board with this. But as I said, Luna now is going to get her meeting. She'll be able to take the conversation. What happens moving forward if they actually get the access, I don't know, because they have been denied a few different times. And so, as I mentioned Obama, as I mentioned the denial here from some of the people who've been trying to get this, Brian Tyler Cohen, who kind of started this whole thing by asking Obama that question, had Representative Moskowitz on the show. And listen to what they talked about in regards to this topic.
As a member of Congress, if sitting on the committee that you do sit on, if anybody would have some information, presumably it would be you and your colleagues who sit on that committee, but you guys have no insight into any of this stuff either.
No, they've kept it from us. And when we've asked questions, they've tried to stop us. When we've tried to put language into bills about disclosure, there are people from government come down and go to the HPSCI committee, right? And go to armed services and try to stop that stuff. So, and that was the thing that we found most interesting on the oversight committee, which is if there's nothing there, why are people from the government trying to stop the language? Why did Harry Reid have such a hard time to get language in? Why did Chuck Schumer have such a hard time to get language in? Why did Marco Rubio have such a hard time? If there's nothing there, if it's all fake, if it doesn't exist, why are people in the government trying to stop it from coming out?
Again, as I mentioned, it's a bipartisan effort here, which I think that's one of the greatest things I saw during that 2023 hearing was how both parties came together to try to find answers. And it looks like with this, again, from those two opposing parties here with Moskowitz and Luna, both fighting for the same thing here, both saying the same thing, that there needs to be more transparency. And now that these particular things, that there's nothing there, then why are they trying to hide it? So will this actually move anything? Or will this be yet, oh, no, nothing here? Because it's not just the DOD. NASA, SpaceX and Elon Musk, we've seen nothing. Hard to believe with monitoring the skies the way that they do, that they've seen nothing. So how many people will be called out, if anything? Look, here's the biggest concern for me. And unfortunately, as I mentioned, where I'm getting to be a bit of a skeptic, where I think this is going. I think that when they release files, I feel like it's going to be something in the same way that we did with JFK. We got a bunch of stuff, but nothing to where you're like, oh, okay, definitively, he was taken out by the CIA, or definitively, it was a lone shooter. It was just Oswald. There was nothing definitively that came out there. So I would tell you that I feel like it's going to be a disappointment, but boy, do I hope I'm wrong. I hope that there's some big information. I hope there's some big files. I hope there's some big videos out there that have been covered up for so long that people have been talking about that would say that's it, that right there. Find all of that information. And if you're going to declassify everything, then if you declassify everything, then there's another report that I guess that they said something along the lines that in Brazil said that I guess the new incoming president said that if Trump does declassify everything, they'll do the same from their files. If that's the case, are we going to see the Varginha stuff happen? I don't know. But it's an interesting time right now. The conversation is getting louder. Will there be things that come from it? What do you think? Put your thoughts in there. Let me know. Very, very curious to hear how everybody is thinking about this. Make sure, if you haven't already, click like, comment, subscribe, all that and more. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the flip side.